Now. Okay, and just letting one more person in to join us, and I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully that will appear as well in just a moment. So if one of my colleagues can give me a thumbs up that the screen's being shared, that would be great. Thank you very much, Miss Jolly. So I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly and then pass around to my colleagues to introduce them, and then we will get started. So my name is Miss Heaver Webb. Oh, sorry, I've just gone forward a little bit. Quite a long way, in fact. Excuse me a second while we click all the way back. We might try that a bit differently. Okay, so you get to get in reverse very quickly, so just bear with us while we go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so my name is Mrs. Heaver Webb, Rachel Heaver Webb. I'm Acting Deputy Head with responsibility for assessment and examinations, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we'll go through the order of the evening in just a second. So if I could pass over to Heather Jolly.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Heather Jolly. I'm Assistant Head Teacher in charge of Pastoral.
And Mr. Cooper, Tom Cooper.
Hi, I'm Tom Cooper. I'm Head of Year, have been for the last 4 years. Thoroughly enjoying myself.
And Mr. Walbrin, Andy Walbrin.
Yeah, I'm Andy Walbrin, I'm Director of Sixth Form and here to talk about post-16 options this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. So you've already heard a little bit about what we're going to talk to you about, but just to go through the plan for the evening. First of all, in a moment, Mr. Cooper's just going to talk through some of the really important things to do with PSHE and mental health and supporting students through the year this year. Then Miss Jolly is going to talk about similar things in terms of mindset and attitude, obviously really important to get those things right for this year. I'm going to give you a bit of information about what we know at the moment about the exams at the end of the year and also the internal exams that we are going to run to help prepare all of your sons and daughters for their end of year exams. And then Mr. Walbrin is going to talk about what might come after year 11 and the preparations that we've already started to make with our year 11 students and you may well know about before Mr. Cooper wraps it up right at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to pass over to Mr. Cooper now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to talk briefly about the sort of personal development that happens over the course of this year, because it's very easy to think of year 11 as being very exam. But we mustn't forget that actually these are young people, they're growing up, they've gone through a really tricky couple of years, and that we're here as a school, not just to try and get them the best grades possible, but also trying to support them as they grow through this growing up sort of stage of their lives as well. So I just want to give you an overview of the PSHE for the course of this year. Now, the way that we're doing it this year is we're splitting it up and having one session every half term. The reason we're doing that is based on feedback. We've taken into account the fact that it's better to do it as a chunk, so you can really look at something in depth, as opposed to do it a little bit here and there, dribs and drops throughout the week. So this half term we've started off, and as I said, we're looking at the fact that students are really here to learn a lot. So it's not just getting grades for school and for their next steps, but it's also looking at skills like resilience, working as part of a team, working independently, and all those other things that they can put on their CV and that they can learn, so that when they do make a mistake, and that happens to all of us, they can reflect on it and actually learn from that and then try and do something different the next time. Going into next term, we'll be looking at applications for their further steps, and Mr. Walbrin will talk about that a bit later. Into the new year, we'll be looking a lot at relationships and making sure that they're looking after themselves as they grow up. Into the second half of the spring term, just after February, the half-term holiday, we'll be looking at, once again, looking after themselves physically, being aware of not only what dangers are out there around them, but also the dangers that might be available to some of their friends, so that they're aware how to make recommendations and do the right thing if anything does happen. It's important to be aware of these things. Finally, the last half term that they're with us before leaving early this year, we'll be looking at sort of families and different relationships, and once again how to manage those as they're growing up and turning into the young adults that are living with you today. So that's our sort of setup for the year. But that said, we are also going into bits and bobs throughout the week in the tutor program, and we do that regularly so that we keep an eye on them, that we look at and discuss discuss any issues that might be up and coming, and we really try and support them as best as possible. Now, support is the key word here, which takes us on to our next slide. And even though I feel that we speak to the students so much about mental health and emotional support, I feel it's important for you to know what's on offer to them as well, so that you can really try and encourage them in the right direction. So just to point out a few things for you that we do offer, and as Miss Heaver Webb said, if you wanted to do any screenshots or things, this would be a good one to go for. But we've got a lot of support on our website that you can find through looking on the emotional wellbeing section. Some of you might have come to a few of our wellbeing sessions on YouTube that are on our Ringwood School YouTube page last year, so do have a look at those. We've also, for the first year, got mental health ambassadors, which are in the form of our sixth formers, and the bonus with them being able to deliver sessions and have drop-ins and things is that they've been through the year 11 process in the last 2 years, whereas myself, it was much longer ago than that. So the sixth formers and the mental health ambassadors are able to give really sort of up-to-date advice on how to cope with all of the stresses and trials and tribulations that our young people are going through today. Equally, there's a few things on drop-ins in the morning that they're more than welcome to come to, and we've got more individually sort of tailored groups as well that we're more than happy to direct your child to if you think they need it. So the moral of the story really is to get in touch, because there is support out there for those who want it, and we're more than happy to help direct either in-house or to somebody external regarding that. Miss Jolly, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. We forgot to say at the beginning, if you have any questions at all during the session, please do put them on the chat. The three of us that aren't presenting will try and answer things as we go, and then if there's anything left at the end, we'll just try and answer those questions for you. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. I just wanted to go through a couple of things alongside the emotional support and mental health support that we're putting in place. The work that we're doing to try and improve our year 11 students' attitude to their learning, attitude to their revision, and attitude to their exams and their mindset. So sorry, there's a question already, but it's popped up in the middle of my screen. One of the things that we look at is something called the Vespa Program. So it's something that we've used previously, and we've rolled out in a big way across both years 10 and 11. We took feedback from students at the end of that, and although the activities we did were successful, it was felt that we needed to tailor it a little bit more to the students that were in front of us, and to pick and choose what activities we wanted them to do, rather than doing a whole package of intervention that was forced on them every single week, regardless of what it was that they actually needed to look at. So this program looks to improve things that are non-cognitive, so things nothing to do with academic success. There is no reason why any of our year 11 students can't work on improving these 5 elements. So that's their vision, knowing what they want to achieve, their effort and how many hours they put in and what they can do to make themselves more proactive, the systems that they use to revise, so how they organize themselves and their time, the practice, the way in which they actually practice, and they'll be able to access, and you'll be able to access more information on that at revision evening, and their attitudes, how they respond to failure, how they respond to setbacks. So we'll be putting that into our tutor program, and please do feel free to ask them about it and what they're doing to try and improve that element of their revision and their work towards their exams. The other thing I wanted to just talk you through, because I think it gives quite a good understanding of what year 11 are going to go through this year and what they are already going through. And this model explains it quite well. So this Kubler-Ross change curve is actually designed to explain the different stages of grief, but it actually works quite well with the stages that year 11 go through as well. So if you look at the beginning, and your students may already be here, that shock phase, and that rejection phase of, oh, it's not going to happen to me, I don't believe what you're telling me, doesn't seem any different, I'll carry on as normal, or, well, look what happened in the last 2 years, what's the point? So that they may well be at that stage. I'm hoping some of them have moved on a little bit from that, and they've had a fairly positive start to the year, but that may be where they were. They then move on to denial. It's fine, I'm fine, leave me alone, it's not different, this isn't an important year, it'll be fine. So that's that denial, head in my sand, the ostrich at this stage. Then they might move on to a bit of anger, looking to blame you, looking to blame us, anybody, about why they don't feel prepared for their exams. I hate this, teachers are rubbish, subjects aren't what they said they would be. As a GCSE and OCR sport teacher, I can tell you I get that all the time. When are we playing games? They don't realise they've picked a theory subject. I wish I could be in year 7 again. Remember those days before it all got so serious. So I was looking to try and offset that onto somebody other than themselves. Then we might slide into a bit of anxiety, a bit of blaming themselves. But it turns out I'm just not clever enough. I can't do this. Everyone else is better than me. I'm already behind. I'm not sleeping. What if I fail? I don't think I can do it. And the danger at that stage is that they end up in this kind of emotional fog of not being able to move forward. And that's where it's really important, if your child does end up somewhere down the bottom of that curve, you really direct them towards the support that we're putting in place through Mrs. Lakin and the mental health ambassadors. Hopefully we can move them through that, and then you should see them start to come up the other side as they start to get some good feedback from their teachers, from assessments that they've done, a bit of acceptance of things are different, but actually I'm getting to grips with it. I'm looking forward. I'm looking to my next steps. I'm excited about going to sixth form. I'm excited about the prospect of university in the future. And then ultimately we get onto the getting on with it stage. So they start to see maybe their grades improve, their understanding grows. And then maybe there are even some bits that they like and they realize that that's what they want to study in the future. So you may well know already exactly where your child is on this curve. They may go backwards and forwards on it, but I think it's just about reminding them that it's perfectly normal to go through all of those stages and just encouraging them on to the next one. The other thing I just wanted to mention with you, and this is something I've talked through with staff actually, is about how we work with our students. And I just want you to think about, as a parent, how you work with your child when you are trying to encourage them to do their homework or trying to get them to revise, and which of these quadrants you end up spending most of your time in. And the best example I can give you to think about how this works is about, remember when you taught them how to tie their shoelaces. So which of these quadrants did you spend most time in? Was it the knot? Do you know what? I'm not going to bother. You can either have your shoelaces flapping around your ankles. I'm just going to buy you Velcro shoes. Or were you spending more time in that 2 box, which is basically a watch me, speed tie it. Right, come on then, you do it. Hurry up, let's go. Or were you doing it for them? We don't have time. We need to get out the door. You've got to get to school. Let me do it for you. Or were you able to spend most time teaching them and sitting in that with box? And a lot of it is time reliant. Did you have time to practice with them, to watch the video on YouTube, to practice the bunny ears method, to buy the book where you have the laces on the front that you practice, to put a rewards chart in place when they got it right? That's quite a good model of understanding how we work with others. And we will all spend different times in those quadrants, but we've got to try and get into the with box as much as possible, because that is where we see the most success and the least arguments. So it also works with year 11 and revision. And the way we get into that with box is by adding 2 axes. So we need to add challenge, which means setting boundaries and expectations, being clear, being honest, being open about any concerns that might raise or might happen during the year. Encouraging responsibility and accountability, and we will do the same at school. Alongside that, we also have to put in support. One does not work without the other. We need high levels of challenge. We need high levels of support to get into the with. And the support will be encouragement, empathy, compassion, kindness, respect. So if you combine those 2, you end up in the with. So just thinking about that model, the year 11 revision, if we're in the not box, it might look a bit like taking no interest. Hopefully it'll be okay. Just ignore them and hope for the best. If you're doing it to them, it might be a case of saying, well, you've got 3 hours until dinner, go and revise. I want 10 pages of notes. You've got to show me your 50 revision cards you've done. So high challenge and expectation and really clear, but no support. Or do we sit in the 4 box for an easy life? Or actually, because you're genuinely interested in what they're doing, oh, that looks interesting, let me do it for you. My mum certainly did that when it came to maths homework. It's brilliant. She loved it and so did it for me. Or can we get into that with box? And that is about lots of the things that you'll learn at revision evening, and Mrs. Heber Webb will talk about in a minute, which is like writing a revision timetable, planning in breaks, putting in rewards, taking an interest, asking questions to help them revise, going to open days, looking at career paths. If we're going to get success out of our year 11s at home and at school, we've got to be in that with box as much as possible. Okay, that's my bit over. I'm passing over to Rachel.
Thank you very much, Heather. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we know at the moment regarding exams this year. And obviously I say that knowing that we've said that for 2 years and what's come to pass hasn't quite been what we thought at this stage, but we're hoping that we can be a bit more predictive at this point this year. And also really importantly, to just flag to you and to your sons and daughters, if they're listening, what the different opportunities are and events are that we're going to put on over the course of this year that are absolutely aimed at supporting your children as much as we possibly can, so that by the time we get to May and June this year, they feel ready, they feel prepared, and they feel as much as is possible when you're sitting in an exam, calm and as if it's familiar to them. So at the moment, this is what we know. So at the moment, we know that summer exams are due to go ahead as normal. And so far the exam boards have released their provisional timetables, and the first exam is scheduled to begin, the first written exam is scheduled to begin on the 16th of May. So that means that there may well be things like art and textiles and photography exams a little bit before that, languages, orals, those sorts of things. But the first sort of in the hall, in the gym, written exam is going to start on the 16th of May. Now, at the moment, but as I said, the timetable is provisional at this stage, the last exam is scheduled to be on the 28th of June. However, we also always have built in, and this was actually pre-pandemic, a day called Contingency Day, which is a national day that all schools by law have to set aside in case there is an issue at some point earlier on in the exam season whereby some exams have to be rescheduled. I bet they didn't think that they'd need contingency years 2 years ago rather than just one day. But if we're entering a more normal period, then hopefully it wouldn't be used at all. But just to flag it to you, it will be after the 28th of June, but we haven't yet had the date. And it's really important that if you are starting to think, understandably so, about booking holidays for next year, that you bear in mind that we haven't had either the date for that contingency day when there could be an exam scheduled, and we also haven't had the final versions of the exam timetables. So that Tuesday the 28th is still provisional, and I just want to really emphasize that. As soon as we know, we will let you know. Okay, so in order to be as prepared as possible for those summer exams, one of the most important things, obviously you'll know, is the mock exams that we run actually throughout the year, as well as the main mock period in December. That's for two reasons. One is, of course, and this is not underplaying it, it's really important, as your sons and daughters did in the summer, that they have the experience of lining up, going in silence, knowing what they can and can't take in, and experiencing what it actually feels like to sit in an exam hall, actually several times before they have to do it when it really does count. So that's one reason why we do mock exams. The other more important reason, of course, is that it shows your child and it shows their teacher in absolute black and white what they can and can't do on the day under exam conditions, and it enables us as teachers to know what we need to teach after that exam, what we perhaps need to go over again. It enables your child to know what it is they thought they'd revised, but actually maybe when push came to shove and they were under pressure on the day, they couldn't actually remember. So for all those reasons, it's really important. And it's also very important because actually practicing revising and knowing what worked for you and what didn't when it didn't matter so much. So going through the mock exam period in December and realizing that actually you thought highlighting was really effective, but it didn't help you learn that part of the science curriculum. That's really important, obviously, to find out before it really counts in May and June. So having the practice at revising, as well as the fact that obviously revising and having to log that information, into your long-term memory and then get it out again in an exam hall, all the evidence, all the neuroscience that we now have access to suggests that that very process of bringing it back to the forefront of your mind in that day in November or December when actually it doesn't matter so much, just the process of doing that actually means you're better able to remember it the next time. So for all those reasons, really important that your son or your daughter focuses and gets the most they can out of the mocks this year. Now, in order to help, obviously, with the main mock exam week in December, but particularly thinking about the longer term and the exams for real, we always put on a revision evening. Now, we had a sort of year 10 version of this, as we normally do in May, you might remember it. The year 11 revision evening, which is virtual, and it will go up on the website, is sort of the big version, the best version of it. And that's because all the videos that you had available to you in June, which were about mental health, and they were about using really good revision strategies, and they were about timetabling, are there, as is the revision booklet, and they're already up on the website for any year 11 to access. But also what we do for the year 11 revision evening is Mr. Firmer, the head of English, does a video about how to best revise for English. Mrs. Hoff does a video about languages. Miss Middlewick does one about sciences. And so actually there's really targeted subject specific report, information and advice available in the October revision evening. Now this year it will go live on the website on the 13th of October. So from that point on, all those videos will be there to access. And of course, the joy of it being virtual, which we never knew before 2 years ago, is that it is there for the rest of year 11. It's not a, you must come on this evening, otherwise you just miss it. But do look from the 13th of October, as Miss Jolly said, ideally look at those videos with your son or your daughter alongside them, so that you can talk to them about what's in those videos, so that you are knowledgeable, but you can talk with them and talk through the different things that perhaps come up in those videos, and be in the best possible position to both challenge and support your child. That bullet point just says really what I've already covered about the range of sessions that will go up online in October. Please just be really clear about that. Don't think, oh, I looked at that in May when it was in year 10. We've already seen those videos. There will be a lot more. As well as the ones that were there before. Okay, so that's perhaps the first key event after tonight to have as a real flag and a date in your diary from the 13th of October. And another date, so we did say at the beginning, if you had something where you could just scribble down these dates, you will have seen if you've had a look at the fridge calendars, but again, just to flag it, that the first set of mock exams in the core subjects, so that's in maths and English and science, start on the 4th of November. So that's the end of the week when we come back after October half term. So in terms of school weeks, it's something a bit not too far away, like possibly 4 weeks away in terms of school weeks, not too long away, and certainly a really good date to have started revising for those core subjects. And then finally, really, just you may well already be aware of this, you may well be on WisePay every week having a look, but most subjects are offering revision guides to students. Some of them have already been offered, some of them are yet to come onto WisePay, so please don't panic if you look at this and think, well, I haven't seen the biology flashcards on there. They're not quite on there yet, but these will all be available in advance of the mock exams. We often are able to sell them more cheaply, so of course you can go to Amazon and get them, but we often do get quite good discounts. So sometimes they can go onto Parent Pay for a significantly lower price. And do let us know if there's ever an issue with buying those revision guides. But that's honestly just a sample. I asked subject leaders to send me information for tonight, and I could have done 4 slides just on the information that they were sending about what would be available in terms of revision guides. So do keep your eyes on WisePay so you can see what's coming up. Finally, just a few more dates throughout the course of the year in terms of support that will be ongoing to help your child prepare and to help you sit alongside them, as Miss Dolly said, and know enough about what they're doing and how they're getting on. That there are 2 consultation evenings this year. There is a full consultation evening in November, and then there is a second consultation evening, which is our invitation consultation evening in January. So normally we have 1 a year, but in year 11 there's always those 2. So just to have those flagged already, that there'll be those opportunities to get feedback directly from teachers. And your first indication of how things are going this year will come via the first progress check, which will be home on the 20th of October. So that final week before October half term, not very long away, you will be able to see, as you can see the example there, a figure about attendance, but also particularly about the predicted grade and the grade that your child is currently working at, as well as, really importantly, the attitude to learning that they're demonstrating both in the classroom and at home. So do watch out for the progress check coming home in 3 weeks' time. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Mr. Walbin, who's going to talk to you about what next.
Mrs. Eva-Webb, sorry, before you move on, there are 3 questions in the chat that are specific to your section that I don't know the answer to.
Course,
I wondered if you might want to answer those first. So one of them is about the BTEC Enterprise exam is scheduled on the same day as the mocks for English and Maths. It seems odd that they are timetabled together. What would be our plan for that?
Yeah, the BTEC exam date, I think, has been changed. So it might be that something hasn't come through yet in terms of communication. So don't worry, that will definitely not happen for any students. So we will make sure that that's sorted.
Brilliant. And then the second question is, due to the disruption to their studies resulting from COVID, are pupils still expected to be examined on the whole curriculum pre-COVID, or will it be streamlined to take this into account, take account of this disruption?
That's a really good question, and thank you for raising it. So schools are going to get 2 lots of information from the JCQ, which is the sort of body that oversees all exams and all exam boards. The first one we're waiting for very soon, and that is information for each subject as to whether or not there's going to be any slimming down of the actual course itself, the specification. We are expecting that in some subjects, similar to this time last year, when of course we thought exams were going to be going ahead for last year's year 11. So for example, in English literature, there was one text that actually we didn't have to teach for last year's year 11. Similar mitigations took place in a few other subjects like geography and history. We're not expecting that to be across the board to all subjects. It wasn't last year. What we've been led to believe is that the mitigations, the slimming down, will be quite similar this year for subjects. And so again, as soon as we get that information, teachers will be talking to students and being really clear with them about whether or not there's anything at this stage that we either don't have to teach them or that they have learned already that they won't expect to be examined on. That's the first thing. The second thing that we're then waiting for, which we're not expecting schools to receive until February, is that the exam boards are going to this year give schools and students a bit of a steer on the topics that will actually be examined in the end on the papers on the day. They're doing that so that revision can be much more targeted, so students effectively in the end will have to revise less of a broad range of topics from each of their qualifications. But they are deliberately not releasing that to schools or teachers or students until February, because what they don't want to do is slim down what students have exposure to in terms of learning, because obviously they don't want to disadvantage this year's year 11 in terms of them going on and then picking up an A-level or going into an apprenticeship or thinking about further study down the line, higher education. So they want teachers to teach as much of the qualification as is possible and students to experience that and learn that. But there is an acknowledgement that it would be very helpful for this year's year 11 if their revision could be more targeted, and essentially if they didn't have to end up revising everything that they have possibly been taught. And so we will find that out, we think, around February half term. And again, the minute we do, that information will be communicated to year 11 so they can ensure that their revision planning is really, really effective and sharp in terms of the exam.
And then one more very small question. When you were talking about buying revision guides, what is WISE Pay?
Oh, I said WISE Pay. I'm so sorry. I was thinking about my own children's schools. Parent Pay. I'm so sorry about that. I mean Parent Pay. Please don't worry that we've got a new system. We haven't. Thank you very much for flagging that one as well, Miss Jolly.
It wasn't me. Somebody noticed. I've never heard of WISE Pay. Thank you.
Good evening. So as you can see on the image there, some of your sons and daughters have a very clear path where they want to go. They'll know already. And some of your students and the students we're working with are really uncertain. So as Miss Jolly spoke about on that curve earlier on, part of the decision making and the certainty of moving through that curve is to help students with their plans for next year. The next slide, please. Thank you. So the next stage and the big journeys and the big decisions that students have to make in year 11 is about what are they going to do at the end of year 11. And their options are relatively straightforward in terms of continuing to study at a sixth form, and we hope most of the students will be staying with us at Ringwood, continuing their studies at college or further education, applying for an apprenticeship, applying for a work-based program, or applying for a position within the forces. So all students post 16 have to remain in some formal form of education, employment, or training. And those decisions have to be made over the course of the next academic year. but many courses at colleges and at sixth forms and apprenticeships are starting to offer open days with application deadlines looming. And it's really, really important that via their websites directly or through the career service in school via our website, that those dates and deadlines are starting to be sort of shared and discussed at home, working with the young people so they don't miss out on any opportunities that are coming their way. Last summer, we began this process to start to get students to think about what they'd like to do and thinking about where they might like to study. And we've had those discussions via tutor time, and that process is continuing now and is being launched next week when we talk about a program called Unifrog, which I think is on the next slide. This website, just before I get to the Unifrog slide, is called Informed Choices. And Informed Choices is a really, really good website that comes from the Russell Group universities, which are an elite group of universities. And they put together this program to guide parents and students through the decisions they have to make post-16. And post-16, when thinking about A-levels, isn't just necessarily thinking about which subjects you're going to study in year 12, but also thinking about potential gateways into university. And as director of sixth form, working with many sixth form tutors and other colleagues in school, we really want to reassure you that it's our day-to-day sort of job in terms of guiding that. So all students over the next course of the next few months will be having post-16 interviews, and we will guide them in terms of the right pathway to make sure they are studying the right subjects if they have a clear career path in mind. All students in year 11 next week will be setting up their Unifrog accounts, and Unifrog is an amazing careers-based program that we've invested very heavily in over the last few years. Students and parents and teachers have found it really, really useful in terms of guiding and supporting their plans. As parents, you can set up your own account, and the login will come up in a minute as well. So you can, if you're new to this and a little bit daunted in terms of the options, you can use Unifrog to do research to support your young people at home. One of the reasons we like it is that unlike other platforms, any searching that you do will stay there for you as a search history, as a shortlist. So those students that stay with us into the sixth form, your careers research that you do now will be with you in year 12 and year 13 when you start to think about maybe university and that next step. And there's guides here on the Unifrog to apprenticeships, to gap years, to thinking about university, the right courses to do, the right A-levels, the right BTECs, alongside potential career paths. So it's a really sort of a one-shop option here for students and parents, and it comes highly, highly recommended. So the parent app, and we'll put that out in terms of that we'll share it via the daily, and we'll send it home in terms of on an email to you in terms of your login. The parents, as I said, you can have your own bespoke address. The careers fair, in terms of a virtual event, will not be happening this year. We are very much hoping to go face to face. So wonderful opportunity, another date for your diary, Thursday the 21st of October, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. to come in and meet employers, colleges, university, and I'll be there on the sixth form stand with colleagues as well. And students will be having the sixth form prospectus given to them ahead of this event, so they can really start to think about their courses and then discuss those with myself and other colleagues out that evening, as well as meeting a whole variety of different providers who can guide you and give careers advice ahead of applications for the next academic year. Really important evening for ourselves in terms of our own personal sixth form information evening. That is Thursday, the 11th of November. And this evening is a really important day for year 11s, because in the afternoon, students are going to get an opportunity to taste and experience sixth form lessons. And this is something, again, we've learned from feedback that our current students don't have that opportunity. So to help make those informed decisions, we're going to be offering all our year 11 students the opportunity to trial 3 different sixth form courses, A-levels and BTECs, and then in the evening, come back in the evening to really meet teachers, meet students, hear more about sixth form life. So a really, really important an evening for us. And different schools and colleges will be offering their own events, but we're very much looking forward to welcoming you all on that evening.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just wanted to almost end really with a few sort of final top tips for both you and to try and help you best as possible support your young person that you've got at home with you. But if you do have any more questions still, then do pop them in the chat because we'll be keen to answer those as well. So firstly, attendance. I know we're always banging on about attendance at school. We do like to see your children as much as we possibly can, but I can't stress enough how important it is in year 11, even more so than all of the other years. We do have, you know, struggles in year 11, and sometimes the temptation just to have one day off is really alluring, but I can't stress enough how important that attendance is, so that we can get the young people in front of us and we can actually teach them what it is they need to know. Because I think if we've learned anything from the last few lockdowns, it's that you can learn a lot more from a teacher face to face than you can from a book. I certainly find it easier myself. Keep as calm as you possibly can. If this is your first child that you've had through going through year 11, then it can be a daunting process, but please don't be afraid to ask for help. We do often have parents get in touch with us, say, please don't tell my child that I'm getting in contact with you, and that's absolutely fine. So please do feel to drop either myself or the subject teacher or any of the tutors a message just to ask for advice or ask suggestions. We're more than willing and keen to do that. Every young person has different strengths, and it's really good to support those strengths. However, please keep your expectations high across the board. The bonus with being in a comprehensive school such as Ringwood is that we do have a really wide curriculum, and because of that, it's really important that every young person keeps going with all of their subjects, so that when they come out the end of their year 11, they can say, look, I didn't just concentrate on these subjects because I loved them, I actually concentrated on everything. So please keep your expectations high and encourage them for all of their subjects over the next few months. As best as you possibly can, be their study buddy. It's been proven that it's a great way to learn is by teaching somebody else. So do encourage them to talk about what it is they've been learning. And whilst I appreciate that it's very common to say to your child, what did you learn today? And they go, nothing. Try and coax it out of them anyway, and try and bribe them to tell you what it is they've learned, because through them vocalizing it and talking to you about it, it will help them remembering it more. Ups and downs, there will be plenty of both of those, and it's really hard when you do hit those downs to get up and give it another go again. But as I said earlier on, this year isn't just about getting your GCSEs, it's about developing as a young person as well. So it's really important that you learn from those ups, don't get overly cocky or overly confident, and equally that you learn from those downs as well, and you say to yourself, do you know what, didn't work so well this time, but never mind, I'm going to keep on going. Finally, I just want to say, help plan for the time. There are so many young people who still don't plan, and we encourage them as much as possible. The reason I stress planning is that there is still plenty of time in year 11 to have fun. It is not an all doom and gloom year. They don't need to be miserable for the next 9 months. There's still plenty of time to enjoy themselves, but it's just important that they factor that in and plan that in, so that way they can enjoy the time when they say, do you know what, I'm going to enjoy myself today. Because nobody likes that Sunday feeling when you're not enjoying yourself from when you wake up until 4 o'clock because you're worried about having to do your homework in the evening. So really do plan, and then you can enjoy your downtime as well as your time when you're working hard as well. Final thing from me, big important date for your diaries. I've already got it in mind, it's highlighted and underlined multiple times, is that prom is provisionally in the calendar. I hope your young person's excited about it. Prom is one of the best days in the year because you really do get to celebrate everything that all of the young people have gone through. And I know that as a member of staff, I absolutely love going, see if I can crack out a suit or something like that. And it will be really fun. So the date for your diaries, Miss Heaver Webb, if you could click, because I can't remember off the top of my head, is, there you go, provisionally the 1st of July, which is a Friday evening. And as I said, that's provisional, but it's provisionally booked for the Vitality Stadium, which is in Bournemouth. And it's a really good venue because it's a great opportunity to watch people arriving as well, looking really happy and really smart. So definitely one for the diaries, underline, highlight, etc., etc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. We are at the end of our slides now, but I'm just going to ask my colleagues. I can see that there have been another few questions popped in the chat. So if my colleagues could just cast a quick eye over those and see whether or not there's anything that we haven't already answered that we can answer now, that would be great.
I think they're all answered.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, I hope that that has been a possibly quite quick, but hopefully really useful 40 minutes or so of your evening. If there was anything that you would like to have a look at again, like we said, the link to this presentation will be sent to you tomorrow. You can watch it all again if you'd like to on our YouTube video, or if you missed the beginning, you can have a look and see what we started with. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time this evening. We are looking forward to launching the revision evening, which is perhaps our next big event on the 13th, but we are really looking forward to, with all our fingers crossed, about actually seeing you in school for our sixth form information evening in November, as Mr. Walbrin has already mentioned. So we are really looking forward to seeing you in person in that evening in a few weeks' time. So I'm going to stop recording the meeting now, and thank you ever so much. Goodbye.